Okay, so in the previous video, we went over this little sheet here for all our rules for how to transform functions. Now we're going to take those rules and actually apply it to some problems here on this sheet. So if you haven't printed this sheet out, you should go ahead and do that now and follow along the video with me. We're looking at different types of transformation problems. So in the first four problems here, it says describe the change in terms of f of x. So we want to write a rule for it. For the transformation described. All right, so in the first problem, they want a vertical translation 3 units down. So what you do is you come back over to your handy dandy little paper here, and then you look and see which one of these things moves a function up and down on the y, or up and down on the coordinate plane. And that answer is right here. Now they're saying down 3 units. They're going 3 units down. So find the one that talks about down. And that says it's negative. So the number that we add to f of x has to be a negative number. So what they're saying is take your original function, f of x, and subtract 3 from it. And that's your rule. Okay? A vertical compression by a factor of 1/4. If you look on here, the things that talk about compressing is this final box here. So what they're saying is take your original function and multiply the input value x by 1/4. So your rule here would be f of 1/4 x. And that's all there is to it. Horizontal translation, 5 units left. If I come back to my paper here, the thing that talks about moving left and right is here. What they're saying is add or subtract a number from the x value of your function. Left, if you look, is positive. So we've got to add 5 to our function. So our function rule here is f of x plus 5. And then finally, a reflection across the x-axis. If you look and see which one talks about a reflection across the x-axis, it's going to be right here. Basically, multiply your entire function by a number, and that number has to be negative. They don't give us a number there, so we're gonna multiply by -1, or call it minus f of x. All right. So that's all there is to writing a rule. Take a minute and see if you understood that. If you need to go back over the video, please do so. All right. Looking at number 5, we've got a function f of x is equal to x plus 3. They tell us to translate f of x down 5 units. All right. So we're going down 5 units. We have to write the transform function in terms of g of x, and then we want to graph both of these functions, the original function and our new function, on the graph on the right. So first of all, what they're asking you to do is say we've got an original function, f of x. What happens if we translate it down 5 units? If we do that, we're going to get an entirely new function, so we're going to give it a new name. So we're going to call it g of x. All right. G of x is just going to be our original function translated 5 units. So let's start with that. We're going to have a new function. It's going to be called g of x. We're going down 5 units. So I have to come over to my little paper here and look. Well, up and down is this. And it says take the original function, f of x, and either add or subtract some number from it. We're going down. So down is here, which means that the number has to be negative, which means we're subtracting 5 units from our original function. So our original function f of x is x plus 3. We're subtracting 5 from the whole thing, so we put a minus 5 there. Now all you got to do is simplify that, combine these like terms, and we'll have our new function. G of x is equal to, well, 3 minus 5 is a -2. So our new function is x minus 2. All right. And then the graph, remember, if you want to graph the original function, when it's in that y equals mx plus b form, the number on the end tells you where it crosses the y-axis. So I've got this crossing at a +3. The number with the x tells you the slope, or the rise over the run. If there is no number there, it's 1. So our slope is 1/1. And that says go up 1/1, and there's your points. And you can do that as many times as you want. Connect the dots through those 2 points, and here is your original function, f of x. To graph g of x, you do it the same way. This says it crosses the y-axis at -2. So there's your -2. Again, we have a slope of 1. So it's up 1 over 1 again. And you connect those dots like that. And it's not very straight. What you would really want to do is use a ruler. But there are your two lines graphed. Okay? And basically, if you look at these two lines, since we translated it down 5 units, every point on this line, it will be exactly 5 units above every point on this line if you drew it as straight as you can. Well, let's look at the points that we plotted here, and we'll see that that's true. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And from this point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we know we've done it right. Let's look at number 6. Here we have f of x is equal to 4x minus 3. They want us to translate 2 up and then 2 to the right. So we've got 2 separate translations happening here. So we're going to have 2 different steps. Our first step is going to involve going up, and we're going 2 up. So we come over to our little paper here. Well, up and down is here in this first one. That says add or subtract a number from your function, and we're going up, so the number needs to be a plus. So we're taking our original function and adding 2 to it. So our original function is 4x minus 3, and then we've got to add 2 to it. So combining these like terms, -3 plus 2 is a -1. That takes care of our translation up. But we also have to do a translation to the right. So let's bring this up here. We're going to start with our original function, with the function that we just got, because we're doing it to that. So 4x minus 1. We're going 2 to the right. So if we come back over here, translating left or right is right here. This says add a number to your x value only. Now if you look, to the right is negative, so we've got to subtract 2 from our x value. So what's going to happen here is we're going to take 4, we're going to take out our x, and we're going to put in x minus 2, because we're just subtracting 2 from our input. Everything else about the function will stay the same. And now we've got to clean this up and combine the like terms. So first we got to get rid of parentheses, so we multiply 4 times x, and then 4 times a -2 is -8, and then that -1 is tacked on. And then my final function, g of x, is going to be equal to 4x, and then combining these like terms, -8 minus 1 is -9, and there's your final function. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you to graph both of these functions over here on your own using what we did up here. On your paper, you can go ahead and cross out number 7. We're not going to do number 7. If you have any questions about the front of this worksheet, please bring them to class.